Hello. I want to make a video and I want to address the situation of accepting that there is someone who is an expert at something. So there's someone that has learned a lot. There's someone that has knowledge. There's someone that has a certain skill or ability, whoever that is, just on a very general note, and it is okay, it's okay for someone to say, okay, that person obviously has a lot of skill and knowledge. Let me check that person out. Let me first see, what does he or she have to say about this subject. If it's an illness, a problem, physical problem, you have to be very careful, of course, very careful, who you go to. And that brings me to the other point. You said it has these two sides. On one side, we need to acknowledge someone has skills, someone has knowledge, they have been trained, for many years. On the other hand, we have, which confuses the other one very quickly, or the other one gets very quickly confused with the other allele, the parallel negative behavior. So on one side we have the positive behavior of acknowledging someone has skill. Then it can very quickly turn into the negative one, where the people just blindly accept someone else being on a pedestal of some sort with something. People go to a doctor and they go, oh, they don't have to do any research. They can just go to that doctor and the doctor just gives them a pill to pop. And I have talked to a guy who actually had the he had the blatancy towards himself, to say that to me, that he says, oh, I just want to pop a pill and be done with. First of all, it's not going to be done with by popping a pill. Nothing is done by popping a pill. It's just a quick fix. My mother used to do that a lot. Take a codeine pill. It's I don't know. Yeah, codeine is like the opposite of caffeine. It's a downer. It's also a painkiller. I don't know if it's the same as Vicodin, but it's definitely a real strong nerve relaxant. And just popping that is not going to fix the situation, obviously, right? The pain is still there. It will come back up. It will come up with a vengeance. And the person is but the main subject of the counterpart, the plus, the minus behavior. The plus behavior is accepting there's someone has knowledge. The counterpart is where people easily slide into and say, oh, I don't have to do any research, I'm just going to let the authority do it. Or, it's a whole scale. Or I let the guru tell me what to do, or I let the minister tell me what to do, or I let the religion tell me what to do, or also in the same context, I let the physician just prescribe me anything he wants to prescribe me, and it will be okay, whether that's codeine or ephedrine or Xanax or whatever it is, that will be a quick fix. That's the negative part of, looking up to You shouldn't look up to anyone, first of all. That's the most important thing. If you go to an expert, that doesn't mean you're looking up to them. You don't have to look up to anyone. We're on eye level, all of us. The expert just has more knowledge, has been trained for much longer than most other people have. There can be an expert going to an expert. They can both have the same training, even in the same field, and they still want to hear what the other expert has to say about it. Maybe they can refresh each other's memory on the study program or the knowledge, or they have found out something else, something new, and they can help each other. And that's how things should be done in the world. We should all be experts. We should all be willing to take responsibility for our lives and get into it. So when you fall into the negative part of looking up to an expert or just letting an expert tell you what to do or do something on you, some kind of treatment or whatever, then you are not being responsible for your life. Then you're not taking any responsibility. You're letting someone else just blindly give someone else the permission to do anything they want to do, and horrible atrocities have occurred because of that, because of people just letting a so-called expert do something to them. There are some people are doctors. They got their doctorate degrees in other countries, sometimes in third world countries where they are highly corrupt, where a person goes and they pay, I don't know, $5,000 and they get the doctorate degree. It's because that's how corrupt they are. So, and then that person goes back to the United States or another Western country with that certificate in his hand, and then he might just do a quick test on that particular field of expertise, some multiple choice test. He might even practice this before, and then he might pass that, and he doesn't have the skills. He doesn't have any of the real basic important knowledge that takes 8 years at least to learn. That's why these study programs go through so many test phases and practica and learning and theoretical and classes, because it is very important, particularly when they're working on another living being, animal or human, that they have that knowledge, the basic ground knowledge on it. They can still go into a particular narrowed down field with this, but the basic knowledge, in veterinary or human medicine, it's very important that people go through this and not just go somewhere and buy that doctorate degree. But it is you, the consumer, who cannot go to the doctor and say, "Oh, doctor, oh, good, I just lie down there on that stretcher and let the doctor do whatever he wants to do, rape me, do terrible things, and inject horrible things into me, and he's a doctor, No, that's not how things are done. Okay? Sorry, we have to take more responsibility for our lives than that. We have to get educated. That's what the internet is for. The internet is offering itself to give us knowledge, not to abuse it and play video games with people who we don't even know, and then people get mad and they go over there and they murder each other. That's not what the internet is made for. The internet is made for bringing us together, for sharing information, for sharing vital knowledge. And yeah, even that is, a lot of the stuff is corrupted. Knowledge on the law is not that easy to find. It's not that accessible. They want to force a lawyer on you, and it's always, here, talk to this lawyer. First information, first 10 minutes are free. No. All of this information should be out there for everyone. This is not handled right yet. But if you are patient enough, and if you go on the internet and you don't give up after 10 minutes, if you really look for it, you will find enough information, at least, that will give you a broader idea on how to handle this or that or this situation, whatever it is, whether it's a legal situation or whether it is a health situation. And you study it all, not just the first couple of links that come up, but you study 50 links or more. You go through the whole list, and then you see, oh, advertisement, next. So discern, if if a window pops up and says, I'm sorry, we see you're using an ad blocker, I'm already like, next, clicked off, next. So I'm not going to let anyone force me to disable my ad blocker. I think advertisements are a civil rights violation. And that's why I'm in full support of AdBlock Plus. It's a non-profit organization in England, and that's why they gave that to us, for free. It's a free program, free application on your systems that disable the advertisements, or absolutely like 99% of the advertisements. So they still, some of the advertisers, they see that some people have that, so they try to bypass it. But it is just because I'm saying go on the internet. I'm not saying the internet, all of this is now like ideal. Everything, this not the totally ideal, perfect, easygoing environment. Okay, no, because it is still directed by humans, and humans are corrupt, and they're about lies. They're about profit maximization on cost of quality of life, for on cost of nerves, on cost of wellness of mind and happiness and all of this. So they make a lot of people miserable. They don't care because they want profit maximization. That goes through almost every profession. Contractor, like the contractor who worked on this house, he skipped costs. So in the end, the next 100 owners of this house are going to be suffering, because fixing this almost means tearing the entire facade down and redoing this. So yeah, this is how the majority of people are. It is really severe in the third world countries. This is a fact. I'm not just saying this to bash anyone. It is a fact. And that's another thing, is we need to acknowledge, over there around the equator, around the whole globe, there is, the corruption is very high. We can investigate why that is. What makes this climate cause people more corruption, or is it genetic, or I'm just asking questions. I don't know. There are many different ethnicities that live around the equator, so I'm not pointing to any specific ethnicity. So corruption happens in all around the globe, with all ethnic people, white, Asian, black. South Sea Islander, Indian. Yeah. So there are just places on this planet where corruption is extremely high and where there's a much higher percentage of psychopaths, like in India, for example. India, Africa, Middle East, South America, okay, there are also Vietnam, there are horrific things happening. So there are people that are totally disconnected, totally disconnected. And it is important that we have the courage to look at that and not go like, oh, this is politically incorrect, I might be labeled something, I better not say it. And then when we don't say it, what happens then is that the people who are corrupt take over. It becomes worse and worse and worse. It just gets worse and worse. And the Muslim agenda is one example of this. So it just gets worse and worse and worse, with the majority being psychopath, and then the other ones afraid, afraid to say anything. They all want a Western woman, and then and it's a terrible, terrible, angering situation for them when the Western woman is not compliant with their belief system. But they want the Western woman more than anything else. So, a tragic situation, So, when something doesn't work, change your approach. That's what Tony Robbins said. If you want a Western woman, she's not going to accept psychopathy. She's not going to accept mutilation and suppression and oppression and halal slaughter and all these horrific atrocities. Okay, she's not going to accept that. She's not going to accept the chador. She wants to be treated as an equal that she is. Our brains, female and male brains, are equally powerful and equally intellectual and equally capable. Okay? There are slight differences, in distribution of expertise fields or areas that we're really good at, and that makes it complementary, so we can put our minds together and each brings something to the table that the other one doesn't, in general. So, but there was also a woman who was a physicist during the Hitler regime, and a Jewish lady in Germany, I forgot the name now, and she discovered nuclear energy, and she developed the formulations for it. So just want to put this into perspective, that men in general tend to say, oh, where are the women physicists? There's one right there. And she regretted what she discovered. She regretted it later. She felt really bad about it because she saw the implications of it. And some of these people, the reason why their family were left alone and in peace was because they were employed by the government at that time that was so highly discriminatory and dangerous and psychotic, with psychotic people in office and psychotic executioners that were the execution. Anytime someone is given a position of some sort of power, some sort of law enforcement power. Most people, particularly most men, have in history have abused that power because they want power so badly, so they completely forget the other living being. You know, they've become severed from the other living being. They've become disconnected in the course of this power hunger. What they really want is love. They want to be loved, but they don't know that anymore. They've forgotten about it. You know, it's become something that's unconscious, that is deeply rooted in the recesses of their minds, and they have substituted that with power. Yeah, my grandfather was one of those types. He was then okay when I said to him, "I'm afraid of you," because he wanted to know what I have against him. So I said it directly, and that seemed to kind of appease him. But it's not really what he wanted. What the real thing that he wanted is what he has shunned away from consciousness, and he doesn't want to hear, doesn't want to feel it. So these mechanisms, because of emotional pain and because of not being attuned, not bringing any of this wisdom into their life's existence. Most people are new souls. They don't know how to deal with that pain. And if they were lucky and had a really good mother, it will not, the psychopathy part will not become active, at least not to that degree. It will never become active. They may not be totally super altruistic still, but they will not do harm on others if they had really been loved, even if they are new souls. So that's why I'm saying, it is absolutely pivotal. It's the foundation of making the world better on how you love and treat your animals and human babies and human friends. It is absolutely the foundation of how we treat each other that will lead to happiness and well-being for all. And that goes without having to study it, that you don't need to even hear what other people have to say on this to know this fact. I mean, this is just logic. But there's a number of other people who also talk about this enormous, vital importance. And you need to listen to them. Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about this. Teal Swan talks about it. Lindsay talks about it. She makes videos on energy healing. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about it. And Jiddu Krishnamurti talks about this in all discussions, that what people want to attain, the connection to the infinite cosmos, that what is that infinite cosmos made out of? What kind of energy? It's made out of truth. And what is truth? Truth is compassion. Okay? So once we align with that, we can make this existence here on this planet or on Mars or the space station or the moon and beyond, as people venture out into space, we can make wherever we are a paradise, a complete paradise where you're like drunk on flow and creativity and humor and happiness. You know, we can't have humor if we are suffering from something. It's absolutely impossible. When I first came to the center in LA at 26, 1992, I was I was in so much emotional pain. I was suicidal all the time. I was suffering so bad. I couldn't give presentation at the university. It was so, I felt such a failure. I felt like I'm never going to get to this point where I can just be a regular student, you know, do the things that are required from us as prerequisites for getting into the four diploma, the midterm exams. And they weren't willing to let me just get by with the written work. I had to do a presentation. For most people, only one professor let me just do the translation of a chapter in Kandel Schwartz Gessel book on neuroscience on the olfactory system. That was nice doing that for her and working with her, and I loved that. I absolutely love that woman, amazing woman. And the other ones, they were all like by the book, you know. You have to go by the book, and everything has to be completely, you know, like this is what there's having to do, and then we cannot make any exceptions at all. And it didn't matter how much I pleaded, and I explained to them I cannot give presentations. One psychologist tried to help me, but it just, that's not how it helps me, by pushing me right into that what I'm afraid of. And there's a reason why I'm afraid of this. You know, I can't be just, you know, with a technique called flooding, I can't just be overexposed to that what I'm afraid of. That just causes me to shut down even more. So they didn't have much real knowledge on how to help someone, and they were psychologists, you know, supposed to know what would help people, but everything was totally theoretical psychologists. That's what they were. And it didn't amount to anything. It didn't help anyone. They didn't even have a help center, which we should have had at the university. At least there, you know, for the fields of psychology and sociology, which were covered at that particular local university down in Landau, Pfalz. So I met one woman. Met one woman here in the United States at the ocean who went to the same university. I was like, this is the most amazing coincidence there is, because that's such a small university somewhere around the globe. So, but yeah, you know, there was only one amazing professor, and that was Professor Doctor, two doctor titles, Monika Pritze. I will never forget her, amazing woman. Her whole energy was like so vast, infinite, and so generous, you know, and so caring, compassionate. So I wish they all could have been like this, but they weren't. You know, they go by the book. They want you to give a presentation. So I wasn't able to do it. I came to the center to Dr. Arthur Janov to do therapy, but at that time it was just a training center. I decided, okay, then I go into the training program. Might just as well, it doesn't hurt, you know. It includes the therapy. So, and it was more intensive as a therapy, because it was a training facility to become a therapist. So much more intensive with the classes and everything, and the tape review classes that we had, where we were doing buddy sessions. We sat for each other. We we video recorded it, showed it in tape review, and then we were together discussing the pros and cons of how that session went and why it went wrong, and we were minutely dissecting every minute of it, and we learned so much in this, and we learned so much theoretically but practically also, and ultimately it was very healing for ourselves in terms of our own therapeutic process. So much more valuable than later once he had it open as a treatment facility only, or either or. So he had both. So once were just clients, then it wasn't such an intense process anymore, and that's not the right approach. I think the way it really works, the healing process, is if each client is also automatically part of this school, part of, each client is also a trainee automatically, and it shouldn't cost a house in Malibu at the beach and a Rolls Royce. It should not. So that's why I want a center like this for free for everybody. I want that to be based on donations. It has to be a non-profit organization. I'm still in a theoretical phase with this because I don't know how to set this up, but I will continue to talk about this in my videos because I think this is vitally important to set something like this up. And not in form of like Scientology, not in form of someone who comes up with another religion, or based on something too theoretical, or based on this or this or that, or going by the book, or going by whatever, some kind of any religion. Even if it's the Eightfold Path that has a lot of truth in it, but don't go by this regimentedly. So we can't be stuck on theory. The most important thing, and a therapy is also alive, just like a language is alive. It is in a constant flux, in a constant flowing and growing process. So it doesn't stagnate. It can't. That's why things cannot be taken by the book, by any kind of book that has something written in it that's frozen in it. And this thing that may have applied at some point in time, maybe only halfway, is not even valid at all anymore later on, because things change in the world. So that's why religion is rigid. It's something. It's like a rigid stick. It gets thrown over by the river of life. So the river of life is alive, and it's flowing, and it's constantly morphing like this clay. That's why doing this with the clay and the putty is such a good metaphor for many of the things that I'm talking about. It also feels really good. It's very therapeutic for me to do this, and I know it's therapeutic for someone who watches me handling these materials. This is very nerve calming. Okay. So that's why I combine this. My justice will, right? Why not do anything with my hands while I talk? So do something. When I paint and talk at the same time, I've tried that several times. It doesn't work that well, actually, because when I paint, I have to really concentrate on what I'm doing, because I have to calibrate these several layers of paint applications over and over and over until I feel like, now now it doesn't. It's not gonna be totally like straight. Like you can't take a ruler. It ventures out of a ruler. It's not rigid. It's flowing, but it's calibrated in in a very harmonious way in terms of my own estimation. So maybe someone else might not find it that, that harmonious. But for me, my brother said he thought it was harmonious. He thought it was calming. So it was nice of him to say. So it is important for me to have this harmonious balance in my artwork. So that's why it appears quite straight. But it's not really, there are some little incongruences and stuff. But that's not, that makes it more alive. So what's important is that it is balanced for me, so that the proportions are balanced. So all of this is important, all of this is very healing. So the therapy approach, the therapy center that I envision, it cannot be for profit. It cannot be. Because if it's for profit, then only those people who have a lot of money can participate in this. I'm not judging people who do it that way. Arjanov certainly didn't do it that way. We paid a lot of money, and my poor parents paid a lot of money, and I appreciate that so much. They're way too generous. They should not have paid for that, really. So, because we could have researched and found out places that would have been more reasonable and would have also worked, like the Vipassana Center. I didn't know any about this at that time. I found Vipassana Center and the 10-day Vipassana retreat, which is completely free of charge, including food and room and board, everything. So I didn't know about this. I found out on the internet. That's what the internet is for. It's for us to use it wisely, to use it to gain information on how to heal ourselves. That's the most important thing. Heal yourself. Do everything you can do and get your hands on peacefully, without being selfish, without taking something from someone else. Get your hands on that, what helps you. Good food, whole food, vegan food, There's so much information on the internet for this. We need to take that very seriously and not get skinny, okay, but eat a lot, a lot of whole vegan food. Please your senses, your body. When you crave something like this, and your body needs it, your body wants it, and you can feed your body all of those needs with whole vegan food, particularly raw. It's very vital. There are all the nutrients in it, much better than vitamin pills. Vitamin pills are not that great. They got bad ingredients in it, most of them. I think the only really good one that I know of is those vitamin tablets by Dr. Richard Scholl's. There's nothing artificial in it. This is all just compressed, active green stuff that is in it, and all kinds of, not even hot processed, not even processed in any way, just dried, kind of raw, dried on the sun and shredded and pulverized and with the binder and compacted into tablets or wafers. And his dogs eat those. Our dogs never liked them. So they're also fully vegan. Some dogs like fully vegan food. I don't haven't tried giving them to Papa Dog. He might eat them. So I'm thinking about buying them, but they are also very pricey. And you can, if you just go whole food vegan, it's not that expensive. Some people think, oh, I can't afford it. No, it's cheaper than buying any of these other things like TV dinners, all that, buy 100 TV dinners and all that knick-knack and all these things with other toxins in it, and all of this actually costs more. But in the end, at the end of the month, if you calculate this off, if you go to the farmer's market, if you sometimes you can get apples for free. There are so many apple trees. People, they go like, when they drive down the road, they go like, they throw their apple seeds out the window. And that is why there are so many apple trees growing alongside country roads, because people, they go slow down the country road, they eat an apple, and then it ends up on the side of the road. And they said something like, so it takes about 1,000 apple housings, until one of them seeds out. So, but that just goes to show how many people are throwing these apple housings out the window. And on our trip, we came across so many apple trees of different types. And the apple tree that I see along the country roads the most is actually that sweet delicious one. This yellowish green one with these, that has like little bubble spots in it. And that's really, really sweet. Dr. Scholl's calls those the politically correct apples. Those are the ones sold, and most people buy those. And that's why we see so many of those, because obviously people are throwing the apple housings out, and they use those the most. And so we found one street where they had like 10 trees of those sweet, delicious yellow apples, and they're ripe right now. And there were so many, it was like a paradise along a stream, where there's constant water also permeating to the grass and the apple trees. I don't know if someone is even maintaining that area there. It looked like it's like city property or something, and wasn't even maintained very much. And we got several bags of those apples and ate them all the time, and it was like heaven. It was heavenly, and they taste much better. Those sweet, delicious apples, much better when you pick them from the tree. They have much more flavor. They're organic, much more flavor. They're wild. And when you get them in the store, sometimes they have a coating on it that to protect them from bugs, some kind of wax coating, and who knows what might be embedded in that wax coating. Maybe they put some pesticides in it, I don't know. So, but that's why, if you find an apple tree, that's what your body wants, not some supermarket sold produce, but the stuff that you find in nature is the most nutritious, and also the most energetically loaded with love and life and abundance and vitamins and nourishing nutrients and even minerals. So yeah, it felt really good to eat those apples. Really good. We still have them down there in some of the baskets. I'm eating those every day. It feels really good. It's much better than taking any kind of vitamin waivers or pills, that are often overpriced, and most of them have chemicals in it, so not even good for us. So yeah, that's why I'm saying, we need to question these. We need to question anything. You become your own expert on things. And then I see a lot of people, they also sabotage themselves. They are afraid of, Lindsay talked about this too, she observed that as well, that some people are afraid of widening their consciousness because they're afraid of what kind of hidden stuff that they have tried to bury will come up. I talked about this many times in my videos, that people are afraid of truth vibrations, because then what if they tune into this and then something unwanted that they have tried to run away from their entire life by drowning it out with radios and TVs? What if that comes up, when the TVs and the radios are turned off, and the bad news and the fake news and the propaganda and the commercials and all of this? Actually, I find the news broadcasters, most of them, I find that equally bad as commercials, or maybe even worse. It is in itself a form of commercial. The news there's nothing neutral about it. They think they're neutral. They pretend to be neutral. They pretend to be unbiased, but none of them are unbiased. Everyone is working for someone. Teal Swan made a video just recently about this. So it's so obvious. We can, see this every day, how these different news broadcasters then are even sometimes attacking each other, and, like Alex Jones fighting on the street with Cenk Uygur. That was about a year ago. That was hilarious. Two fat men fighting on the street. But each of them are, they're all into their own promotion. It's self-advertisement, basically. They're working for themselves, or they're working for the company that pays them, or whatever. And they in turn are, paid, or given, they are given donations in quotation marks by politicians to sneak a little bit of a half-baked commercial into it for that politician or for this or that corporation. And sometimes they use more psychological manipulation techniques, and see, that's not even necessary anymore today. People are so bound to their peer group that it wouldn't matter what their peer group did. It wouldn't matter what the horrors they do, they would still cling to it, no matter what. If they unempowered them, if they made slaves out of them, if they used them like pawns, it's their peer group, so they stick to it against the other peer group. The center goes against the other centers. Krishnamurti talked to David Bohm about, everyone has this centric type of, this center way of thinking. Like, I am the center of the universe. Everyone thinks that, So, or the earth, they used to think the earth was the center of it's always this centric way of thinking that the ego does, My family, pride, family pride, national pride, that centric way of thinking. Human centrism. So all of this. Anthropocentrism. Anthropocentrism comes up with a word such as anthropomorphism. So, and I have to be real mindful when I use these words, because I can quickly just twist them, meaning the other, and then, oops, so I meant the other. So I have to be very careful. Anthropomorphism is a word that anthropocentrist people came up with. Okay, what do I mean by this? For anyone who is not informed about this, the anthropocentrists are the human centrists, are the ones that put humans on the pedestal. Okay. So, and they come up with a word such as anthropomorphism, where they accuse another person of putting human-like interpreting human-like characteristics into an animal. I was accused of this by, I'm not going to mention any names now, but by a woman, she was later in the news, by a veterinarian. A veterinarian should not use that terminology for the very subject they work with. But she accused me of being of using anthropomorphism on a sea lion, because I was asking her, I think was in 2011, I was asking her to help a woman in charge of a marine mammal center. I was asking her to help, and she said, we can't do this because we can't put humans at risk. And it was almost like she was trying to get me angry. But I didn't get angry. So I said, the sea lion is in pain, I said to her. He has a fishing net embedded in the neck, and we need help up here, where the other people already refused to help me. So I reached out to her, and she flat out refused, and she called me anthropomorphic, accusing me of putting human-like characteristics into the sea lion, interpreting that the sea lion, has human needs or whatever. The whole thing is obsolete. This whole accusation is obsolete. It's void. This entire accusation, if we look at it closer, the sea lion has the same needs that we have. So that accusation and this word, this terminology, is invalid. There's no such thing as anthropomorphizing. So I'm gonna have to put the chart. It's already discharged. I have to bring it downstairs, and it might cut out anytime now. So just want to make this so clear to people that they understand this, that the sea lions have exactly the same needs, and the dogs and all the other animals have the same needs. I gotta plug this in. We all have the same needs. So that's why that word is useless, because we're made out of the same material, we have the same needs, and because of that, she should have helped us and not accused me of interpreting something. Nothing can be interpreted. It is already there. That's the fact. That's the truth. That the sea lion, he was lying very close to the parking lot on the boat dock. It was the first one there at closest to the parking lot, because he wanted us to help him. He was suffering in pain, and I felt so bad. We filmed it, we had it on the camera, everything. And I tried so many different institutions. Nobody was willing to help me. It was very disappointing. Very disappointing. So I just wanted to bring all of this out there to the public so that we can together think about these things. And as Jiddu Krishnamurti said, compassion is truth. Compassion is the truth. Most people run away from truth. Then when they do that, they run away from compassion. And then the world becomes worse. And then they cause more suffering. They bring more living beings into the world. They pass the same pain on. The suffering becomes worse and worse then. It becomes aggravated. And we want to avoid that. We want to make the world better. Don't put any more living beings into the world. That's the number one step. Recognize, okay, that we need to come back to compassion. Very, very important. And understand that all living beings have the same needs, the same sentience, the same consciousness, the same awareness, the same need for love and compassion and friendship and companionship and health and food and water and protection. Okay? So those are the most important thing. Compassion is the most important thing. Compassion is truth. Take care, guys.